Alright, welcome back to our weekly Let's Try series, once again covering another furry visual novel. This one's adults only, 18 plus, only check it out if you are an adult, but this is Conway, a historic fiction story that is helmed by Nomax, which is frankly a terrifying artist, and I've had my eyes on this one for a bit. It just never quite got around to it, I guess. And I've been curious about this. Monday, 6th of June, 1971. This game contains explicit sexual visuals. If you prefer, you can choose to disable these images. Please note this will only affect the visual content and not the text. As a result, there may be instances where the visuals do not align with the text description. But it'll keep you safe from prying eyes during gameplay. You will still unlock related images in the game's gallery, even if you choose to disable this option. Do you wish to see explicit NSFW images? Let's say yes. Because I want to know. The game may contain visual and descriptive scenes that depict physical injuries. The scenes are not intended to linger or glorify for shock value, they are simply meant to depict some of the realities of working on a ship during the time period, and should be suitable for most players. However, if you prefer, you can choose to have these scenes toned down. While these scenes will still be included for narrative purposes, we will do our best to navigate around them. For instance, your character might look away or leave the room when these scenes occur. Enable depictions of injuries and blood. And lastly, you can hide and unhide this text box by pressing H. Today is the day. Your final moments on dry land before beginning your life at sea. It seems surreal. It's only been a week since you left the farmstead you grew up on, yet it almost feels as if a lifetime has slipped by. The uneventful journey along the rugged path from your humble village to the vibrant port city has ignited something within you. It seems like the past weeks have been the most thrilling days of your 20-year existence, and they're only the start of the adventure yet to come. At least, that's what you keep telling yourself. Beneath the tumultuous excitement of the surface, a lingering anxiety sits heavy in your stomach, keeping it tense. Nerves and fear intertwine, casting doubt on the sudden life change. Ship masts start to come into view, emerging above nearby roofs as you approach, their stark, looming presence against the morning sky only serving to amplify your emotions, further unsettling your stomach as you turn the corner onto the bustling main road which leads straight to port. Maybe skipping the breakfast today would have been a wise choice. The coastal breeze kicks up, giving you the strongest hit of salty air yet. Another reminder of what you were so close to doing. A new life on the deck of a ship, surrounded by endless miles of ocean. Are cats really made for life on the seas? As you traverse the bustling thoroughfare leading to the docks, the familiar aroma of the nearby fisheries fills the air. The scent of fresh seafood intermingles with the salty tang of the sea, a pungent reminder of the lively nature of this quarter of the city. The path is adorned with an array of shops and stalls, each proudly showcasing their own bountiful catches for the day. Their colorful displays of fresh seafood entice passers-by, while diligent merchants busily prepare for the gathering crowds. As the path nears its end, the smaller shops give way to grander structures that the house shipwrights and shipping companies. Whoops. These sturdy buildings stand as beacons of industry, eagerly accepting work from any ship that makes port. Of course, no port town is complete without its share of dockside taverns, and the bustling city is no exception. The closest tavern echoes with boisterous shouts and drunken songs, drawing in sailors and locals alike. As you pause near the tavern, you finally get your first unobstructed glimpse of the ships. You have a direct view of awe-inspiring vessels that gracefully ride the gentle roll of the sea. Among them, one is about to become your new home. This is the very beginning of the grand adventure you have been dreaming of for years. Out of the way, a slurred voice commands as a burly otter emerges from the tavern, shouldering his way through the crowd. Lost in your thoughts, You find yourself rudely knocked to the ground by the shove. The sudden impact jolts you back to reality. Quickly. Sorry. My brain's permanently poisoned on the phrase back to reality, so my brain immediately always autofills like, whoop, there goes gravity. Oh, it's so... it's every single fucking time. And even when I power through and don't act on it, then I have the moment of where I'm like, God damn it. Quickly reminding you of the chaotic nature of port life. A groan escapes your lips as you climb back to your feet. The otter is already lost in the crowd, just another sailor with one too many pints in him too early in the day. It's a sight you know you will be growing accustomed to in your new life. Any lingering frustration from the fresh bruise in your shoulder dissipates as you break through the dense crowd and reach the water's edge. Your eyes widen in awe as they fixate on the magnificent ship docked right before you. A fully rigged beauty, adorned with 3 majestic masts that soar high above her deck. The meticulously carved and painted lettering across the stern proudly displays the name of the vessel, a name that signifies the place that is about to become your new home. Conway. A name that fills you with the same sense of passion and adventure that brought you all this way. A name you yearn to utter with pride in the days to come. You silently rehearse it within your thoughts, savoring each letter as it swirls and dances in your mind. It has a nice ring to it. What are you doing here? We all talk like pirates in this not piratey place. No. Once again, you're startled from the hazy daydreams of your mind, instantly returning to the source of the bellowed voice. It's a horse! That is a crazy painting. The first thing I thought when I saw this visual novel, I'm like, what do you mean that artist is gonna do a visual novel? You're gonna make that much art at that level? Jesus. Granted, I don't know how spritey the sprites are, if you know what I mean, or if they're just like a handful of illustrations or something. Before you stands a towering horse clad in a tight-fitting blue uniform, his hair tied back in a neat knot behind his head. He looms at least 3 heads above you, forcing you to tilt your head back to meet his piercing gaze. You hear me? We're on a tight schedule, and the last thing I need is some idiot getting crushed by a crate because he's gawking at the ships. So... The horse snorts heavily. Get out of the way. You're left feeling helpless as you stand there, unaware of the problem at hand. You finally grasp the situation where you instinctively look up and notice the crate suspended in midair, connected to a sturdy dock crane. A group of workers eagerly awaits the crate's arrival on the ship, while others work diligently to guide it to the ground, with you in the way. You quickly scurry out of the way of danger, sheepishly watching as the crate is carefully lowered into the men on the ship. Great. Not even on the ship yet, and you've already made a fool of yourself. Easy now. Slow. Slow it. A bit more. And down. Now. Keep it slow and steady. Slow. Slow. Damn it, I said slow. Are you deaf? She's not your wife. Treat her gently, you son of a bitch. Reluctantly, you approach the horse again, sure that he must be the one in charge, with how he's barking orders. Sorry about that. His tail moves. Was not expecting the tail to move. Oh, the whole screen has like a tinge on it when the interface is enabled that goes away. It's surprising. Sorry about that, sir. I'm new. One of the new recruits signed up to join the Conway. Could you tell me where I should be? The horse doesn't seem to have heard you, or care. His attention is focused only on his work, keeping an eye on every barrel and crate coming from the nearby warehouse and heading for the ship. Frustrated, you clear your throat and try again in a louder tone. Sir, I'm here to join... Yes, I heard you. He's quick to interrupt you, sparing only a momentary glance in your direction before his booming voice shouts at someone near the warehouse. Jeffrey! We're too short. Get those first. Got it, sir. The horse turns attention back to you, narrowing his gaze with a deep scowl. You're one of the new ones? Great. How about you don't get in the way every chance you can? I'm really sorry, sir. I'll be more careful in the future. The horse snorts, clearly unconvinced. His steely gaze lingers long enough to make you squirm before he pulls out a leather-bound book and leafs through the pages. That's officer to you. From now on, got it? Officer Arthur Hudson. What's your name, recruit? I don't think I see clueless fool in here. James is the default name, it looks like. James Kelly. Well, shit, you weren't even joking. James Kelly arrived and accounted for. Get up there and wait for at the 4, recruit. You'll be instructed after loading is done. Navigating around the Disney like it's Disney? Navigating around the busy crewmen, you cautiously tread upon the unsteady gangway, feeling it sway beneath your paws with each gentle roll of the sea. You proceed cautiously, each step measured and deliberate, as if the slightest misstep could send you tumbling into the water. You can't help but feel the crew's eyes on you, perhaps amused by the new recruit's struggle to simply walk. Finally, your feet find solid ground as you step onto the deck, a wave of relief washing over you. It may not have been the smoothest start to your first day on the ship, but you reassure yourself that confidence will come with time. This is, after all, what you've always wanted. Regaining your footing on the stable deck, you stride purposefully towards the foremast, mindful of the instructions given to you. Best to avoid any further trouble that would come from sightseeing. Focused on your tasks, you navigate the ship with purpose, eager to prove yourself in your new role. Surprisingly, you spot 2 others already waiting in your designated spot. It takes but a moment for you to put it together. More new recruits just like you. Their tails also move. We got a black wolf and a lizard. The art goes so hard. The one in the back, a weathered wolf in his mid-30s, bears the marks of time and hardship on his face. Lost in his thoughts, he flicks a coin with practiced ease, catching it repeatedly, absorbed in deep contemplation. You can't help but wonder how he, at his age, became one of the ship's new recruits. The other figure, a youthful lizard, appears much more suited for the role. From the looks of it, he can't be older than just about 20, if even that. From his spot, leaned up against the mast, the lizard lets his inquisitive gaze focus on you, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. Greet them? They're coming into focus. Is one of his eyes damaged? I'm trying to tell if his eyes are the same color or not. One looks slightly brighter, but that could just be the lighting. Aye. Aye. Would you look at that? A cat. Not going to be at each other's throat immediately, are you? Hadn't planned on it. You two knew as well? The wolf simply nods. He doesn't seem to be the chatty type. Oh, bye. New landsman. Yes. Julian. Sure, it will be great working with you. Pleasure's all mine. Can't wait to be scrubbing the whole ship with the 2 of you. Julian's smile curls up adorably across his reptilian muzzle. Seems he found your little icebreaker rather amusing. Searching for a way to keep the conversation going, you subtly gesture towards the crew members who are busily loading the ship. I can't believe how quickly they work. I think I'd be lost just trying to make it from here to the warehouse. It's like a well-oiled machine. All the crew working together and knowing exactly what to do. No wonder they wanted us over here and out of the way. I bet most of the crew are seasoned vets. Makes sense they work so smoothly. Did you hear? Some guy just Some guy must have got in their way a bit ago. Could hear the screaming from up here. Oh, yeah, I heard. You're thankful not everyone saw the commotion you caused earlier. You quietly hope that Julian doesn't pry any further, allowing the incident to fade into oblivion. It feels strange just sitting here while everyone works, though. It does, doesn't it? Feels like I'm just a passenger, I guess. Your words nudge Julian towards a new topic. Passenger, huh? You never been on a ship before? Never. I've dreamed of it, but I was tied to my home until now. But I have to admit I'm excited. Julian seems surprised by the revelation. Guess it's not every day that a new recruit has never seen a ship before. Really? Well, you're in for something then. It's not for everyone. Hope you get your sea legs quick. Not your first time sailing? Few trips here and there. Dad's in the Navy, so I grew up with it all. Just never done anything this big. The Navy? Not surprising to end up working on a ship as well. Not the first time I've heard that. Must be in my blood, huh? Better hope you don't get seasick immediately. I can't promise I won't laugh if I see you hurling off the edge of the ship. Julian's jest comes with a mischievous glint in his eyes. Thanks for being so supportive. I'll fetch you a bucket. That enough support? The wolf's deep voice interrupts the conversation from behind you, drawing your attention. You glance over your shoulder to see him still engrossed in his coin, its polished surface gleaming in the sunlight as he expertly flips it through the air. Very, very kind of you. I think I'd like to assume I'll be fine. I don't need yet another thing to worry about. Time will tell, though I'm sure you'll be fine. Hopefully. Julian leads in, clapping a hand on your shoulder in a friendly gesture. So, if you've never been on a ship, what made you sign up? Let me take a wild guess. Running away from the farm life. Julian's long reptilian tail gracefully sweeps across the deck in slow, deliberate movements, waiting to see if his assumption was correct. You can't help but frown. Was it really that common? Lucky, I guess? I didn't think it happened that often, but yes, I wanted a chance to see the world. The tales from the sailors passing through my town were always so thrilling. I guess I just needed to see something other than this town. Feeling self-conscious, you try to think of a way to put into words. The way the ocean has always seemed to offer an escape for you, how boxed in your village was, save for the endless expanse of sea. Nothing seems like it would satisfy the two, and you decide to demur. Ever so slightly. Maybe that's childish of me. Wanting to get out to see the world, you mean? I suppose. Yes, it is. Oh, ignore him. You try, although you nuance your explanation with a shrug, so that you don't seem too vulnerable. I'm getting over a week-long sickness, and it's unfortunately a struggle to do long-term talking. And especially when it's like, yeah, alright, I'm ready, I'm set, and then you do it for like 20 minutes, and you're like, uh-huh, nope, things are shaking loose. I take a lot of breaks during these videos right now, so I can kind of reset. It was this or working on the farm, and somehow, considering that life for yourself makes the rest easier. I'd hate myself if I didn't try. I'm sure it's not all laughs and the friendly company. The wolf doesn't rise to the bait. Julian, however, smiles affably. As long as you know before you start, you can always return, if you find out it's not for you. Sure. It's still a leap into the unknown. That's all. Maybe I'm just worried it won't work out the way I hoped. That sounds childish, too. Once you say it out loud. But you can't help casting one last, slightly wistful look at the harbor. All that security, everything you've known, you'd be leaving it all behind to spend God only knows how long. With sailors like these? It worked out for you, though, right? You don't seem to have any trouble. He gives you a quizzical look. Trouble? Nerves? Things you're leaving behind? People you might miss? Or who might miss you? He grabs the leather strap of the bag that you realize must contain all his belongings. Everything he has left in the world. Just like you. But he twirls it idly in his hand, then shakes his head decisively. Oh. No. Nobody? Well, fine. Yes. Either he realizes that's not enough of an answer, or he suddenly decides he wants to tell you more. People will miss me. And I'll miss seeing the friends I grew up with. Look at how long his tail is. Every now and then it does bigger swirls, and you see the tip of it on the far right of the screen. Or the far right of him, I mean. I wonder if specific things trigger that, or it's on a timer? I swear I saw it. Or if it was caused by, like, the line. Let's see. Did I imagine it? Oh, there it goes. Yeah. Long tail. I wonder if having tails would make things easier or harder on a ship. Like, on one hand, I'm like, that's a lot of balance you can have. It seems like that's a lot of stuff that could potentially help you on a wavy deck if you have a heavy tail for balance. But then dealing with, like, the confined spaces and people getting in each other's ways and then being worried about that kind of stuff, like, having a whole extra dimension of how much space people take up and having it being a fluid, mobile little thing feels like it could really get in people's way. People will miss me. And I'll miss seeing the friends I grew up with. But my father has worked on ships all my life, so... What do they say? Salt water in your veins? Well, in a sense. In that sense. He lets go of the bag and stands up, stretching his arms widely. It was only a matter of time before I'd follow in his footsteps, I guess. Ah, yes, of course. The Admiralty is no doubt in this one's illustrious future. Hey, who knows? He seems to do a better job than you of not letting the wolf's personality get to him, or maybe he takes it as a challenge, because his next question is directed at the canine as he makes his way over to him. What about you, anyway? What's your story? The wolf looks at him with an openly baleful expression. My story. Yeah? His thick tail follows the movements of each step he takes, like a dancer's ribbons, as he makes his way around the mast and past the wolf. Money. Money. That's it. That's it. You could have earned money here in town, you know. And I did, didn't I? Maybe I should have asked for a bonus. Being interrogated wasn't part of the description. It's hardly an interrogation, I'm just curious. We're really not going to get you to tell us anything about you, are we? Rather than answering, he flips the coin in the air. He catches it effortlessly, rolling it down between his fingers. What about your name? Will you at least tell us that? He pauses, looking at you, poised to flip the coin into the air again. Wolf. You can't be serious. No way your name is just Wolf. And yet, here we are. My parents weren't the creative type. How's that? Mine aren't either, but surely they didn't just call you Wolf. What was the point of asking me if you weren't going to listen to the answer in the first place? Wolf. He repeats it, clearly unconvinced. They saw a wolf fall out, and it was the first thing that came to their mind. What more do you want? Silence descends, as you and Julian both try to decide whether he's being serious. Finally, he flips the coin again. This time, though, he doesn't catch it. The coin glints and catches the light before it disappears in one of the folds of his white shirt. Rather than acknowledge the missed toss, he simply fishes it from his shirt, then shakes his head scornfully. Whatever. Apparently, he leans the other way to get close to you, whispering so that the wolf can't hear him. Weird guy. Before you can answer, or ask whether or not it was a safe bet that the wolf's hearing wasn't that good, Arthur makes his way forward to join you. Hello, ladies. The three of you get up, and you try to stand up at something like military attention, greeting him properly. Arthur takes a few seconds to quietly survey his new recruits. Well, enough sitting around. We're almost ready. We'll be leaving port shortly. You take one final look from the ship down to the harbor. Once more, the realization begins to sink in. This will be the last time you'll see this place for a long time. Or you could bail now, like Julian said. Turn back while you still have the chance. No. You can't just go back. You chose this for a reason, and you're not going to back out now. The ship is your home. These odd characters are your companions. As you watch two sailors begin to close the heavy wooden cargo grate, Arthur speaks up again. You may be new, but I expect the same discipline and dedication from you as I would from any of the others. The whole deck rattles as the door slams shut, with the finality you've always associated with a jail door closing. Which side of the door are you on? You're not certain. But with a boyish smile, you realize you certainly don't feel like a prisoner. Even if some might argue that you are. Is something funny, sailor? You straighten up even further, to the limits of what you would have thought possible. No, sir. Sensing that this might not be sufficiently persuasive, you clear your throat. I'm just happy to be here, sir. He fixes you up in a stern gaze, sizing you up. This isn't a day's sailing on your master's yacht, son. And that goes for you, too. Arthur directs this at Julian, who remains impassive, even if you don't know why he might have been singled out. We may not be aboard a warship, but the lives of others are going to depend on your diligent work. I expect you, all of you, to take it seriously. All three of you will be under my command. Whatever I tell you to do, you'll do, without question, without hesitation, and without doubt. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Julian and the wolf echoed the same alongside you. If not I, then whoever I delegate in my stead. I do not have time to nursemaid you, is that clear? Again a chorus of yes, sir, in unison, certainly more disciplined than you feel. The chain of command is your god now. Whatever you were before, you'll be sailors soon enough. With any luck. The three of you remain motionless and stiff as Arthur looks you all up and down. If the horse feels optimistic, or disappointed, or nothing at all, you can't tell. His expression is impassive, stern, authoritative. After a long spell, he decides he's had enough of this inspection and steps back. I'll find someone to teach you once you've left port. Until then, grab your belongings and follow me. When he nods to the bag sitting next to you, you hurry to grab yours, everything that remains of your previous life. Arthur turns with a crisp, precise movement and heads towards the stern of the ship. He walks quickly, followed by Julian and Wolf. You hasten to catch up, falling in line with the others as sailors around you finish the last of their preparations. Oh, is that the otter from earlier? The drunken otter? A sailor makes his way up the gangplank. Just before it's pulled up after him, carrying a leather-bound book and a few dozen letters in his hands, he approaches Arthur. The horse stops and returns the salute the sailor offers him. At ease. Your report? Everything and everyone is aboard, sir. The surgeon? He gives a short, sharp nod. Yes, sir. Regia came aboard this morning. She said she'd found what she needed to continue Mr. Blackborough's treatment. Some good news, then. That should ease everyone's minds. Anything else? Final messages from shore, sir. And the most recent soundings. They're still dredging the main channel, unfortunately. I swear they'd be faster if they just used their teeth. Very well. Take this to the quartermaster. With another salute, the sailor dashes aft toward the raised quarterdeck at the ship's rear. The four of you follow, although more slowly. Arthur's head is on a constant swivel, taking in the state of the ship around him. The sailor returns, without the books or the letters, scarcely out of breath despite dashing across the deck. Sir, the kedge is fast. The quartermaster recommends we catch the tide, sir. And catch it we shall. Have them hoist the flying jib. But keep it eased until I say so. When the sailor departs, Arthur straightens up further. His head is held high, and although you can see his chest fill with a deep breath, the loudness of his voice still takes you by surprise. All hands, stand by to weigh anchor. It is a clear, sharp bellow, and the crew snaps into attention as if they are marionettes under his direct control. Cast off all lines. Arthur checks his immediate surroundings, which includes the three of you. Stay clear of the ladders. We'll have men moving about. Beyond that, watch and learn. Yes, sir. Although Julian and Wolf seem to know what's going on, you have to pay close attention to discern one bit of activity from another. The crew are untying the ropes that have bound the Conway to the pier, you finally determine. Yet others wait raptly, their attention focused on Arthur. Haul in the kedge. Is that a maned wolf back there? Look at them. His head turns, and you follow the horse's attention to where sailors have taken position around the windlass. The game has a really interesting visual identity. Obviously, there's a very well-made interface here that's very cool looking, with the subtle background that gives it the dialogue box texture without being distracting and in the way. A little crowded is the main thing that bothers. I don't like how close the text is to some of the lines sometimes. It just kind of bothers me a little bit. But more so what I'm noticing is that there's a very particular way of conveying the surroundings. It's interesting that we constantly have the camera swaying around on what is itself a boat that you know is rocking and creaking. And so the camera just pans over to reveal characters. Characters don't just appear in the frame necessarily the way that they often do in visual novels. Just these stories often have completely static backgrounds, and then characters just pop in over and over again, just appear in front of us, then disappear, and then you usually just sit in one spot until the scene ends. Then you go to and then a new scene is usually denoted by a change in location, but the characters come and go over the course of the scene as they need to go. It's interesting to have this different way of presenting where the camera swivels around, the background pans, and we reveal characters moment to moment, and their reveals themselves can often be their introductions. That's going to be the character that's going to be coming into focus here. It was even happening during the situation with Wolf and Julian, where it was it would go back and forth, and the wolf would be out of the story for a while, but then the camera would just sort of pan to him when it caught our attention again. It's very neat. It's very distinct presentational styles. I like that it's becoming maybe less standardized how furry visual novels are made. There are upsides and downsides to standardization, because like when there's a formula, you can communicate certain things via the shared language these games have. So the more you stick to that, the more you can shorthand things or indicate like stuff as you go. Like for example, due to the production costs and so on of these games, in many cases, if a character has a sprite, especially one that moves, then they're usually an important character because they were worth keeping around. And less important characters are often not even depicted visually in visual novels because it's just like cost and effort to actually do so. So you can kind of tell how important characters are, sort of in like the, oh, who's the protagonist in this JoJo story? Wow, is that a main character or is that a main character? And it's like, it's really obvious because of the designs. But you know, if you just have more production value, you can just draw everyone, and that's not necessarily less clear. It can confuse people a little bit. We actually got into that a little bit in my video essay type thing, how to make a visual novel in 30 days. Orion from Remember the Flowers talked about the fact that like people are some people in the audience get frustrated by the fact that he likes to make the story feel more lived in, so he wants to have sprites for minor characters and not leave them off screen, but it leads to people thinking the characters are more important than they are and getting annoyed when they don't come up again or stuff like that, or aren't like folded into the narrative. So it's like, it does affect people's expectations when they're established enough. The question sometimes is whether or not it's worth caring about that or not. People care a lot about... Sometimes people get annoyed when their expectations are subverted, even if the expectations are literally just like, that's how the genre normally works or something like that. And sometimes it's like narrative conventions, but sometimes it's just like genre conventions that became that way because of the comparative indiness and bare bonesness of the genre, in that it's like like the medium more so than the genre. And it's interesting trying to balance what people expect and don't expect from that stuff. And I did that with my own visual novel too, in Since November, where we ended up with an extremely different presentational style, where the game was made entirely of CGs, and some people love that and some people hate it because it like throws off their way of normally interfacing with these narratives. This one already is going to be dealing with some level of clashing with expectations because it has these like fully rendered paintings of each character, which means they're probably not going to move very much. They're probably mostly going to stand still, have a few altered expressions where you move the eye and the mouth, but they probably don't have that many different poses and stuff like that unless they fully make a separate drawing for each character, which you could, like, you can always burst through those expectations and just put so much fucking work into the game, but oftentimes the more detailed or the more you deviate from the usual art style of sprites, the less they function as regular sprites and start having a different production cycle and so on. I even noticed that with like the extremely pornographic furry visual novel Summoned by Accident, a game that I can't even begin to present in any way on this channel. That game has like full paintings for every character, but I think every single character in that game literally does not emote. They have one drawing, and they just kind of like puppet them around like a paper puppet on a popsicle stick. But that's all they can do with them because they don't have more drawings for each character, or if they do, they're for like physical changes, not for like a bunch of emoting and so on. Anyway, this has been a long tangent about sprites and visual presentation. Very struck by just panning to the maned wolf, I guess. His head turns, and he followed the horse's attention to where sailors have taken position around the windlass. You notice no movement at first as it starts to turn. Then, gradually, you perceive the shore receding from you as the ship's bow pulls away. Today, if you please. It seems to have been directed at the maned wolf supervising the windlass. He gives Arthur a salute. He said haul in. Put your backs into it. If you want to stay ashore so much, jump ship. Let us look at him, though. I want to look at the blurry sprites. I don't know if they're like unfinished drawings, left vague as background characters. That would be an interesting way of presenting things. Like the otter was permanently out of focus compared to the other drawings. And this guy's really out of focus. And I don't know if that's just like because of the scene composition or if it's actually a character we'll never see up close. But they're distinct enough that I want to see more of them, so I'm like, get over here. The crew were doing their best, although you can't tell if it's the man's exhortations. You can't tell if the man's exhortations are making a difference. The rest of us have places to be. Oh hell, I'll show you, I'll show you, louts. I'm not reading this correctly today. He joins them, his long legs straining for purchase on the deck. Good. Handsomely now. You wonder if you're about to be enlisted to help yourself, but Arthur seems satisfied with the change in progress. The dock is noticeably further away now, as the ship's crew pulls into the harbor by the anchor chain. Arthur's eyes flick from the windlass to the shore, narrowing at the direction of the rising smoke. Sheet in the jib. He pauses, his ear flicking at the sound of a shout from the further aft. You can't make it out, but the horse seems to have had no difficulty. He raises his voice again. All hands, man the halyards. Now, damn it, brace the yards and hoist the staysails. Samuel, stand by. Aye, sir. We know his name now, you can just say his name. Leave the yards be. Get on the bloody staysails, damn you. I would stay quiet, because he's already told us that to just listen to his command. There's a bit of an edge in Arthur's voice, although you can't tell the reason. The crew responds, nonetheless moving around the ship's rigging as nimbly as a spider in her web. As you watch, the sails lift, catching the wind until the ropes snap taut. The ship is moving perceptibly faster now. Arthur's eyes are still narrowed, his attention focused on something you can't yet perceive. Mind the down haul on the mizzen staysails. Samuel, haul away. The maned wolf and his crew on the windlass work with renewed effort. It seems, at least, to be easier. They're no longer pulling the ship, you realize. The Conway is moving under her own power. Samuel just needs to raise the anchor as you pass over it. Good. Arthur relaxes and takes a deep breath that you can see in the movement of his massive chest. He lifts his voice again. Keep the staysails sheeted in. He watches for another minute or so, then turns to the three of you. Well, you can apparently keep out of trouble. Let's see if you can be useful, too. You're at posts 36 and 37, I believe. He points to you and Julian in return. Stow your gear and report to Samuel. Be quick about it. Okay, we're definitely seeing more of the maned wolf then. That guy has thighs the size of my body. Wolf, it would seem, had already put away his belongings. You follow Julian, who seems to know where he's going. You understand what happened? How you moved the ship, I mean. The orders? Of course. It's not too difficult. You have a hard time believing this, to be honest. Really? All the ropes and the anchors and everything, you understand how it works? Well, not all of it. Just think about it logically. It comes down to wanting wind in the sails, right? I guess. And to point the sails into the wind, you pull on the different ropes. If it's important, they'll teach us. Which, with that winch the maned wolf was running? The windlass? He looks around at the posts, searching for where they're identified. Here you go. Just put your bag here. You do as he says, although you have to take Julian's own knowledge of the Conway on faith. Windlass, yes. No. No? He gives you one of those airy, boyish smiles, as if it was the least meaningful thing in the world. The windlass is for the anchor. If the wind's not favorable, they set an anchor in the harbor mud and pull the ship into deep water that way. Simple. If you say so. He keeps making this pronouncement. You have the sense that beneath his lackadaisical exterior, Julian is more complex than he lets on. More world-wise, despite himself. More than you, at least, for now. You file windlass away in your mind for later. Is that all we need to do here? Yep. So let's get back on deck, before Wolf has a chance to turn that other dog against us. Shall we? Trying to remember if maned wolves are canines or not. I think they might be. There they are. They got a little... Is that a switchblade? It is a switchblade. Yeah, it's a folding blade. Got a holster. They got a whole ass setup. The design was elaborate enough that I'm like, that's not a minor character, right? The two of you join Wolf, who seems to have been engaged in a brief conversation with the maned wolf. Samuel, we were told to report to you. The maned wolf is leaning against the railing, the windlass now abandoned. He looks remarkably carefree, with his arm hooked around one of the ship's cables, and his foot propped against one of the cleats. So I've been told. Nothing like a bit of excitement to start the voyage, eh? Was that exciting? He was expecting a pirate attack, I'm sure. No, I just didn't know what was happening. I thought I should ask Arthur, maybe. Mr. Hudson, sir. If that's his name. Oh, I figured you were new, but I didn't realize you were that new. The maned wolf grins. He looks young, not much older than yourself, really. His grin, too, is youthful. But he's clearly an experienced member of Conway's crew, someone Arthur could rely on despite the wicked easiness of the smile he's turned to you. He chewed you out, then. If you were more charitable in describing it, you could think of Arthur as a stern father type. Samuel doesn't seem like that. But that just means that you're even more conscious of your desire to make a good impression on him. I kept quiet. He seemed busy. He was, but it's nothing that adventurous anyway. A faster tide than the sailing master expected, that's all. He looks up at the masts, where most of the sails are still neatly rolled up. Furled, you know that much. And less wind. It'll pick up when we're out of the lee of the harbor. That happens often? The wind not doing what's expected of her? All the time. But Hudson knows how to handle something like that. You'll figure it out too. In time. But we shouldn't be ready for pirates then. No, our foes here are far more crafty and tenacious. It's all but impossible to fend off their siege. He stretches out one of those long legs of his, nudging it against the deck. A constant battle, where no mere cutlass or cannon can aid you. It will be, of course, your most important task. Scrubbing the deck. You learn quick? His grin is sardonic, although you imagine that, with his friends, it's not that rare. Realistically, yes, that's what you'll be spending your time doing. Welcome to sea. Though it's not just the desk, sheets need to be tarred, masts slushed. It's almost funny how little a ship actually wants to be at sea. Now, one of you is a Julian Preble, I'm told. Julian nods, straightening briefly to attention. Samuel points to you next. And you? What's your name? James Kelly. Well, I'll try to remember that, I guess. We will find uses for new hands like you, of course. We met the other greenhorns, but we're the only true greenhorn because everybody else is kind of hardened or has experience. Even the person that's around our age is like so many years our senior. You look at the deck, and then your eyes wandered from the Conway's bowsprit back to her stern, where you can see Arthur in conversation with one of the other officers. How much work would it even take to clean this whole thing on your knees? Oh, you'll be plenty busy, don't worry. It's as if he's guessing what you're thinking. If you're smart, you'll have some alcohol to trade before someone hands you the bucket. But maybe that's just me. And you do have the sense that, young as he is, Samuel counts as being an old salt. The scar on his cheek, and some markings tattooed on his left wrist complete the picture. You'll learn that, too. You nod and look around the deck of the ship, already trying to estimate just how long it would take to clean this thing on your knees. I already know. The others turn to look at Julian when he speaks up. The lizard smiles. Who I can make work for me? I already know that. Ain't it so, Wolf? You better watch your tongue. Oh, that's right. The big bad wolf. He keeps that cheeky smile of his on full display. I'm just saying, that's all. We're fast friends, him and I. Julian really does have no idea when to stop with the wolf. Samuel doesn't seem especially convinced by this explanation either. It wouldn't surprise you if the two ended up brawling by the end of the journey. For the moment, Wolf keeps his cool. But not to the extent that he keeps himself from glaring daggers at Julian. You really are a nuisance, kid. The maned wolf clears his throat. His lanky body does not project the same authority as Arthur, but he does manage to sound like a voice of wisdom. You two can continue this courtship on your own time. We are not courting. Fine. You can have the drunken brawl you're angling for on your own time, too. I'd recommend you wait until after we get to harbor. That long? In a harbor bar, you might not be identified. Maybe you'll be really lucky, and we'll sail before anyone wants damages covered. His smile is hardened. You wonder where he got that scar after all. But keep it off the ship, all the same. Unless you like being whipped, in which case, don't let me stop you from getting in the way of a good time. I'm just trying to have a bit of fun is all. We're going to have to be friends. It's a small ship. A long way back for you to swim back to shore, you mean? The snarl in his voice is not particularly subtle, and it mostly vanishes when he turns towards Samuel. He's not worth it. I know that. Don't worry. Good. Apparently, Arthur expects me to make sailors out of you. I'd really prefer not to look like I can't keep you from each other's throats for a full watch. He nods his long muzzle towards you. What about you? You have any smoldering passions you need to keep cool? No, sir. The maned wolf snorts. Don't call me that. I will throw you overboard for grievous insults. Now, if you three need to be kept busy, I can certainly find ways to occupy your idle... He trails off, as a noise coming from the stern catches his attention. You follow his gaze to... That is an African wild dog. Hello. Immediately recognize... Their ears are so fucking big. Also, Nomax likes to draw that species a lot, actually. You follow his gaze to see someone leaning over the wooden railing. He's clutching a rope tightly to keep from going over. He recovers, though straightening up to emerge from behind the railing. You have a brief glimpse of a large rounded ears before he disappears again. Samuel laughs once more, this time with a knowing chuckle. So he's not he doesn't seem like a crewmate, so he's probably the surgeon? Well, looks like someone's having an even worse start to our trip than you, Wolf. Or they just joined the ship. Oh. He follows the direction of Samuel's gaze, and Olvie watched the hapless man throw his body forward again, fingers holding the rope in a death grip. This time there's the unmistakable sound of retching. Oh, well, I don't know about that. I might take that if it meant we could lose some more unnecessary weight. Julian clasps a hand against his breast in feigned shock. You wound me, Wolf. We've been getting along so well. If you don't shut up, I promise I'll do it for you. It's not entirely clear to you how much the Wolf's attitude is theatric. What you do know is that he and Julian seem quite comfortable on the Conway, at least from a physical point of view. Neither of them have Samuel's relaxed stance, but Wolf hasn't even put out a hand to steady himself on the ship as it begins to rock through the more substantial waves of the open ocean. Should we try to help him? He's got big teeth, don't worry. No, him. You point to the unfortunate soul who is now leaning heavily against the railing for support. Having feared you might be susceptible yourself, it's hard not to feel a little sorry for him. Is there anything we can, I don't know, can we help? Not really, can't do much. Sometimes you just get caught by it. The ocean's not for everyone, that's for sure. He shrugs and turns away. Don't think he's anyone I know. Must be a passenger of some kind. It'll pass, though. Okay, so he's probably maybe some kind of, like, government official or merchant or something. Not the surgeon. He's not from the ship. He'll have more room for dinner. Think of it that way. Samuel, you realize, must have seen more than a share of seasickness. Eager young men like you, no doubt, discovering too late that they're part of the maned wolf's not for everyone. I suppose. What does it matter? I don't know, I just felt sorry for him. Well, go keep him company then. The rest of us have other things to do. You have work for us. You look to be already trimmed. We looked to be already trimmed. Trimmed? What did I say earlier? Admiral's daughter, this one. Julian sighs, too dramatically. Samuel ignores the both of them. The ship's sails are properly set for the wind we have. We're close-hauled until we can turn southwards. You don't know what close-hauled means either. You open your mouth to ask, but Samuel shakes his head. The important thing is, I don't have work for you. Not now. But they'll ring the bell for dinner soon enough. Oh, it must be about time, I suppose. The sun's rather low. Indeed. We should all get ready for it. Consider yourselves dismissed. Wolf turns quietly away the moment he hears that you've been released, leaving the three of you behind. You're still not certain what to make of him. Why go through all the trouble of working at sea if you're just going to be miserable? At least the seasick passenger must have a destination in mind. Julian, watching Wolf step down the ladder into the bowels of the ship, seems to be thinking the same thing. Someone's hungry. Or someone hates your guts, though I can't imagine why. Why is because he needs to lighten up a bit. Maybe. The maned wolf flexes his long fingers, then balls them into a fist and socks Julian on the shoulder before he can dodge it. Ow! Stop that. What was that for? Curiosity? Oh, that did feel good. Just curious if it feels good to punch this character for his behavior. You're being attacked by twinks already. This is the fate. This is the pecking order. You're at the bottom already. Julian rubs at the sore spot on his shoulder, glaring at Samuel. Some of that seems to be genuine. The main wolf must have hit harder than you thought. You're saying I'm wrong, that he doesn't need to lighten up. I'm saying I've known you long enough to think you can definitely be a bit annoying. You've known me for 15 minutes. Like I said, Oh, not you, too. Hey. With that prompting, Julian looks to you for approval. Nope, I'm gonna side with Samuel. Samuel is the relaxed person that we've met so far, and even he's like, Jesus Christ, man. Why are you pressing people's buttons for fun? Strange as Wolf is, he must have his reasons for the caginess. Even if he doesn't, you can hardly blame him for not wanting to deal with Julian. The lizard acts like you're off on some boarding school camping trip, not a proper sailing vessel. At least, what you imagine a camping trip would be like. Something a lot less serious than working aboard the Conway. You do come on a bit strong. Strong, huh? He's being diplomatic. Diplomatic. As in, it's a diplomatic way of saying annoying little shit in the local dialect. Julian looks at you as if expecting further explanation, but if he doesn't understand why his antics would rub anyone the wrong way, you doubt you can explain it to him. Finally, he gives up, shoulders slumping in defeat. Fine, fine. He sighs and shakes his head. But he does need to stop being such a grump. Be that as it may, good behavior goes both ways. We're going to be stuck here for a while. You don't have to like each other, but you do have to tolerate each other. I'm trying. Don't make me punch you again. Julian huffs dramatically. Everyone's got their own past, their own little quirks and things they don't want to talk about. Things that can't just be left ashore, as much as we'd all prefer it. And if you don't want to start off by antagonizing everyone, I'm not trying to antagonize people. Something about the way he responds gives you the impression it's probably a speech the young man has heard once or twice before. Well, in that case, at least try to make your ribbing funny, just some advice. Oh, of course. There's so many people here I can take pointers from on that one. He shakes his head, but keeps a reasonably brave face. Alright, I won't antagonize him, or you, and you won't punch me again, alright? Good lad. Stay on Wolf's good side. Right. Let's go down and wait for dinner. You're hungry, right? Julian looks at Samuel suspiciously for a few more seconds before giving up. Yes, practically starving now that you mention it. He looks in the direction of the ship's bell, like he could will it to ring sooner. And you haven't even done any work yet. He gives Julian another punch. Oh, this one's much lighter, and on the other shoulder. Ah, I'm kidding. You should be excited. Just for once, while we're close to port, we'll run out of fresh ingredients quickly. But for now... Oh, I know. Enjoy it while you can. He keeps staring at the bell, though. I plan on it. Who knows when the next good meal will come? Exactly. Bandile is one splendid cook, at least. That man could make salt pork a royal feast if he had to. And he'll come close, even for us, when it comes to that. I can't wait. I'm sure we'll be eating hardtack soon enough. Well, Bandile could almost make that edible, too. He pauses, then shrugs. Almost. Do you know what he's planning? I saw someone from the ship bustling about the shops near the docks. Probably Bandile, then, yes. I heard rumors that it would be salmon. Something of a specialty for him. Oh, that sounds good. I never turn down fresh fish. It sounds good to you, too. Even growing up in Harbor Town, the best fish was too expensive for a family like yours. From Samuel's hungry expression, Bandile has to be preparing something more exciting than some overboiled stew that barely does more than smell of fish. It does sound good. I can't wait to see what our cook can manage. You'd figured it would be a while before that smell would be appetizing again. In any event, as far as appetite is concerned, You're still thinking about the seasick man. But I, want to check on that passenger. Make sure he's not suffering too badly. Sure, sure. Suit yourself. Careful by the railings, though. I don't fancy a swim. And his physique doesn't exactly lend itself to the ocean, you suppose, which may be why he ends up with that wry grin. I will be. I'll be down in a moment. Leave some for me, will you? No promises. It'll be your fault for being late anyhow. Despite the ribbing, you're pretty sure Julian and Samuel will ensure you don't go hungry. You watch them make their way across the deck, following Wolf's footsteps and disappearing down into the ship's hull. There they are. Unfortunately, with the blurring effect, you can see the outline of their blur with hard edges at the top and the right by their hand and their ear. There's just cut-offs. You're like, aw, dang. Those shouldn't be there. It might be an in-engine blur within the Renpire or whatever system they used here, and not necessarily one on the sprite itself, but it's hard to tell. All I know is that it bugs me, and I would think about fixing it. If I would agonize over it a bit if I had it. But I also wouldn't make a game that was doing all this, probably. You ascend the ladder, as Arthur called it, but it's more of a narrow staircase. Nearly as steep as a ladder, though, and you can't imagine trying to manage it on a rocking deck. But you're gonna have to soon. Wow, he's having a bad day. Look at that face. Rough time. No. Yeah, and yeah, it's an African wild dog. Well, the less splotchy than I think they usually look. I guess that's more their body, though, than their face and hands. The sound of your claws clacking, whatever sea legs are, you don't have them yet, announces your presence to the passenger. He turns to face you. And on closer inspection, you can see it's an African wild dog. I didn't need a closer inspection at all. It was easy. You've not met any of those before, but the look of his fur is unmistakable. So, too, are his round ears. His radar dish ears. They're so big. And a black muzzle that stands out against his pale fur. With teeth that would be more imposing were they not tightly clenched. Oh, the whole ear moved. Ah? Oh. Company? Perhaps. He seems to be over the worst of it, although he flinches with the more severe waves. Oh, his face moves a fair bit. Still, his voice sounds more sure of itself as you near the final step of the ladder. Careful! You freeze and have to put out a hand to catch the railing. Oh. Apologies for the outburst. Please do not miss your step, but I think you are about to step on my glasses. You glance down to discover your paw scant centimeters from said glasses, an ornate pair at that. You find better footing, and carefully bend down to retrieve them, holding the glasses by the bridge in the middle. So I was. I'll hold them in that case. It's probably safer that way. Thank you. You wouldn't have wanted to damage them. The frames are thin, but made of gold. They look expensive. Aristocratic, even. I mean, look at how he's dressed. Now that you have a chance to examine him up close, the man himself has a similar sort of bearing. His black suit is fancier than anything else you've seen aboard ship, even from the officers. It would have been out of place ashore, too. Even the men who dressed in their Sunday finest for services don't dress like this. His demeanor, though, is hardly so imposing. He stays quiet, and you feel compelled to break the silence. I saw you up here and wanted to see if to know if everything was, well, if there was something the matter. Oh? Are you the surgeon? You are not the surgeon, are you? He asks, peering at you without the benefit of his glasses. I'm not. I don't know who the surgeon is, now that you mention it. I came aboard earlier today. It just looked like you were having a rough time. Well, that was very kind of you to take note in that case. He's still holding the rope tightly. His ears remain slightly drawn. The whole of his body, indeed, seems to have wilted. You do still look a bit under the weather. Do you need help? No, I will be fine, I'm sure. It's just seasickness, that is all. I'm afraid I am not used to this. Well, it can happen to anyone. I wouldn't think anything of it. Really, because... He shudders and shuts his eyes tight for a moment, taking deep breaths through his nose before he manages to calm himself down. Because there is certainly some evidence to the contrary, to anyone observing this tableau keenly. Our absence, or absence of evidence, if you would rather formulate it that way. What? I am the only one on the ship hanging over the railing, while some... He grimaces, although it seems he's able to recover faster this time. Nice young man holds their glasses. After a moment he tries to smile and succeeds. Mostly. I do appreciate the thought, though. The two of you lapse back into silence while the African wild dog steadies himself again. You find yourself grateful that you're able to enjoy this. For a moment, everything is fairly calm. There's a distant sound of the crew conversing and the creak of the ship's timbers and rigging. The rhythmic splash of waves against the hull as Conway truly gets underway toward her destination. You know it can't last, of course. For now, you're promised a good meal, everyone is still reasonably clean, spirits are good, and tempers are at a low boil, Wolf accepted. But for now, you enjoy it. You only wish your companion could do the same. You're a passenger, huh? One of the other sailors said he'd never seen you before. I am, yes. I suppose I do not much look the part of the sailor either, do I? It was not required for me to travel incognito, and, well, I am fond of these clothes, I admit. Where does... Before you can ask him where he's headed, the painted dog abruptly leans over the railing and throws up again. You think about trying to offer some assistance, even if only a reassuring pat on the arm, before deciding to err on the side of discretion and look the other way. More fond of the clothes than the conveyance, have already become something of a reluctant passenger, to tell the truth. I see. If it is truly an idyllic... blah, 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 I'm tired, I guess. It is truly an idyllic scene at which you find yourself gazing. The sky above has taken on an orange tint of brilliant sunset. Some additional sails have been set, and rustle within the minutest changes in the wind. But until you gain truly open waters, most of them remain furled. The masts and rigging cut sharp black slices through the beckoning glare of sunset. A few gulls have followed the ship out this far. They wheel, nimble, dancing silhouettes above the horizon. And next to you, the unfortunate wild dog heaves again. And again. Fortunately, by this point, he seems to have emptied himself completely. He straightens up. And tugs his neatly tailored jacket back into place. Dear Lord, I'm quite sure by this point nothing is even left. What I would not give for my body to simply... The painted dog pauses as if considering whether he needs to be sick again. No, I think that is better. What I would not give, I was saying, for my body to simply leave me alone. I don't know if we have advice to offer. It sounds awful, sir. I was worried I might experience it myself. Count your blessings on that one. I'm sure it's just not my time yet. The only thing I know is that they say it'll pass. You get used to it. Comforting platitudes for the ailing, I imagine. He tries to smile, and does, you think, seem to be recovering. I read in a book once that you should stare at a fixed point. It is something about the equilibrium of our, well, some humor or another, would it not be? Oh god, they think humors exist. I'm afraid I don't know. Nor do I, and truth be told, this has left me Rather short of humor altogether. The real problem, I find. He takes a deep breath, fixes his hands on the railing and stares at the horizon, right at its edge. You can still see the shoreline. Is that it means you need to look at all the water. Countless, ghastly leagues of it. Ghastly? That sounds a bit dramatic. It makes one uneasy, at least. And it is strange to be leaving it behind. We were meant for the land, I think. I was, anyway. Perhaps I am talking nonsense in my current state. You're not. You, too, stare at the horizon. It is difficult to make out any details. The hills and rolling terrain of your birthplace are no more tangible and real than the markings on a map. A black ribbon dividing sea and sky. It's hard to believe you called it home. I know what you mean. It's the oddest feeling, watching everything you've ever known vanishing into the distance. You are from here. I am from... You try to point, but you've never seen your home from this angle. Is that the old church tower? Are those the peaks you used to climb with your friends? At this distance, it's all blending together. And you still have the painted dog's glasses, for that matter. I don't know. I was from there. Ah! What brought you aboard? You are a passenger, too. He eyes you curiously, but unlike Arthur or Wolf or Samuel, you don't feel the same kind of judgment. It's more of a congenial sort of inquisitiveness. Perhaps he's happy to have something else to think about. No, I'm part of the crew. I just joined today. They call me a landsman, which I suppose is sort of rank. You shrug, self-depreciating. The newness of the experience is something the two of you share, after all. Or it's just the polite form of what they'll call me when I can't desert. It must be exciting, I hope it is at least, to be giving up your home like this. It is. It still is, I mean. It doesn't quite seem real. I've always dreamt of seeing my hometown disappear, and now... The call of the unknown? An adventuresome spirit. Maybe. Yes. I wanted to see something new. Something I'd never find on the homestead. I'm not sure what yet, but... You will find it, I'm sure. It doesn't sound naive. Not at all. There is always a point where a young man like yourself must want to spread his wings. Or hers, perhaps? He catches himself and turns back to the horizon to calm himself while he ponders that before giving a decisive nod. Yes, certainly. I think it must be a universal instinct. I am sure everyone feels the call in the core of their very being. I just wish it involved more carriages and fewer boats. For me, there was only so far I could hope to go on land. Oh? What is it you were leaving behind? Your nest, as it were. My family has a small homestead. In a good year, there are many mouths to feed, and there are plots to feed them with. In a bad year... Ah, I see. But no, it's not quite as simple as that, is it? Not so pragmatic. Don't get me wrong, we get by. Got by. We got by. We could sustain ourselves. But I don't think farm life was for me. Not forever. That is understandable as well. Spend your whole life in one place and the temptation to see other worlds would be terribly difficult to ignore. Not to say that roving impulse is felt by all of us equally. There must be separate fashions for separate kinds, the spheres of our various interests and talents. Am I rambling? I don't know. A little. My spirits are lifting. That is what has happened. I do think looking towards the horizon helped after all. Maybe it is time I saw it for what it truly is. That seems to be a rather philosophical statement, but the painted dog was clearly a man of some intellect. You try to meet him on the same ground. A nest? No, I mean... Could I have my glasses back, if you'd be so kind? I can hardly see you, let alone our destination or our origin. He holds out his hand. You're not sure he'd even need the other to support himself now, let alone both. You carefully set the glasses in the painted dog's palm. He places them smartly on the bridge of his muzzle, then adjusts them precisely until he's satisfied with the fit. Much better. Thank you. Of course. Is the water any less troubling? Of course. Is the water any less troubling? Objectively, no, but I shall manage. So why the Conway, then? If you're not a sailor and you don't like traveling. Traveling is lovely. In the right circumstances, of course. It is a change of scenery for myself, as you might have imagined. He gestures at himself and, with the glasses, the genteel air as well, and truly cemented. Coming aboard with no mess kit or fishing tackle or whatever sort of accoutrements I would be expected to have, as a proper tar. It is, despite his scholarly being, a number of words and phrases you don't recognize. Perhaps Julian can help. Later. For now you focus on the painted dog. But you wanted the change of scenery. Is that not the rub? I am being brought over by my patron who desires that I work on her estate in the south. Paid to travel the world? That sounds like quite a lovely offer. I guess you're not sleeping with the sailors either. I am not, no. The accommodations are quite reasonable, all things considered. But the voyage is, to be honest, mostly done from necessity. Even if I were one of those professorial types, installed like a statue in a library, not everything can be done that way. Such as... I am to turn my energies and industries in full on the diversity of flora in that region, thereby to assemble a compendium of such notes and such conclusions as may lead to profitable ends. That sounds important, right? He smiles, his mood improving by the minute. I shall gather plants to see if any of them might be useful to my patron in her business. She is bringing me down there to allow me to do my work. Just as a side note, I thought they were going to have like an "are you a boy or a girl" moment. I was trying to remember whether or not anyone had actually addressed us by gender yet. And the painted dog referred to us, referred to Wanderlust in terms of like any boy or girl, I suppose, kind of squinting around. And they specifically don't have their glasses on. So I was like, are they going to be wondering what our deal is, I wonder? And I was like, are we going to pick what our gender is when he puts his glasses back on or something? It's not how things panned out, but I was amused by the thought, at least, like this Professor Oak moment. As I said, I cannot do it in the library. Many of them have not been documented at all, at least not in languages any of us speak. I will be the first. It sounds like you have a wonderful opportunity then, being paid for everything, living in a fancy estate, traveling without needing to get your fur soaked in tallow and grease. His smile becomes a little gentler. True. I could not care less about the money, but the discoveries, that is a different matter. I may have preferred to stay home, truth be told, but when else would I be able to see the other side of the world like this? Never. Not the way you might, obviously. Paying for the voyage myself, no matter what accommodation, would be out of the question. I am quite sure of that. And I am not cut out to be a sailor. Even once I learned to keep my food down and my eyes looking elsewhere, I could not do it. Why? What makes you say that? Why could I not be a sailor? It's just not me, I suppose, for lack of any better, more useful way of putting it. It is for some people. As if he might have overstepped, he clears his throat and gestures to you. Nothing against you, of course, far from it. I mean to say that it is... I am not made for it. That is the problem. It is too dangerous, too physical. He trails off and lets his hands fall. I am simply not adventurous in that fashion. Sure you are, though. You're sailing around the world right now. You said so yourself. That sounds plenty adventurous to me. Sailing around a very particular world, my friend, a very particular one indeed. Here, I have a little cabin, all my own. There I shall have the estate, and perhaps even an assistant to help with my work. I feel the world around which I am sailing is only incidentally the one shared by the good ship Conway. I suppose, but doesn't look that comfortable for you. An artifact of my softness, though, is it not? Even once this is past, no matter what, I will not be the one climbing up these... Are these the ropes they climb? I think they're the ropes that they pull to set the sails. Nobody is aloft right now, but you can recall the ones that you saw the sailors scrambling up and point them out. Those are the ones they'll be climbing. He looks at you expectantly with his brow raised. The ones we'll be climbing. Right so. And when there is a storm, my duties will be to keep my glasses about me and my food in my stomach. Yours will be to keep the ship sound and all aboard her safe. He regards you with what, despite his station, seems almost like genuine respect. But that's what I am cut out for. I prefer it that way. Before you can answer, the ship's bell chimes. In case you didn't understand the meaning, a sailor's voice raises above it. Dinner is ready. How are you feeling? Well enough to eat? I suppose so, yes. Ah, that's a relief. The cook is quite good, I'm told. Something to look forward to. Well, I will not be dining with the crew, unfortunately, but I hope to find out nonetheless. Perhaps we'll meet again, do you suppose? Thank you for the company. I would certainly not mind sharing it again. Well, then yes, I hope so. Enjoy your dinner. He cants his head, peering at you curiously before it strikes him. Oh, goodness, 1,000 apologies. I am Nomax. Okay, it's just the creator of the game. Got it. It's a pleasure meeting you. He holds out his hand for you to shake, and while yours is clean enough to feel the gesture permissible, you take him up on the offer. It's nice to meet you, Nomax. I'm James. James, yes, I see. A pleasure meeting you as well. With a polite bow, he makes his way unsteadily down the ladder to the main deck. He's careful, putting one foot in front of the other, but at least he no longer seems like he needs to spend every moment bent over the railing. Ooh-woo. Like most of those you've met, he seems like an interesting fellow, if a bit of a character. You find yourself liking him despite his slight awkwardness. There's not much space aboard the Conway, so you expect to see more of the painted dog. And if it's not looked upon favorably for the crew and passengers to mingle, well, surely Nomax would be the first to tell you that you should make your own destiny in that regard. You smile to yourself and decide that that will have to be the case, and it's time for you to get going yourself. Dinner beckons. You think you can already feel yourself becoming steadier on your feet. Not as graceful as the maned wolf Samuel, but then you've only been aboard a few hours. And I think that's where we're going to cut it for today. Went a bit longer than usual. I think I did several recordings, so I was taking breaks, but I usually go for like an hour. But I kind of wanted to like let the scene play out. So this has been Conway. It's been going on for a while, I believe, on itch.io. You can check it out for free if you are an adult and see where this whole thing goes. On one hand, I reflexively wanted to say that, like, it kind of felt like it lacked a hook, just in that, like, the narrative kind of wasn't doing anything yet, because we just kind of inhabit a person who wants to leave the world behind and get on a ship. But we start in the act of getting on the ship, and then in the first hour of the story, you're just on the deck, meeting a series of characters. I don't know if that's if I'm entirely convinced by that, though. On some level, it might be nice to have an introduction that, like, showed you some kind of stakes of, like, what you're leaving behind, or, like, maybe some kind of bad situation you were in, or some kind of, like, narrative moment that happens before you get stuck, like, meeting every character and being introduced to the ship in a very long introduction. But on the other hand, I do feel like this might be the kind of story that, like, the just being immersed in the setting and the details and stuff like that might just be like half the appeal. And so maybe it is okay to start a story like this by just starting right at the logical beginning of being introduced to being on a ship and stuff like that, and just like meet the characters and just kind of accept the idea of leaving land behind and how you're just all stuck here together now. But yeah, I'm not totally sure. It's always hard to judge any story by its very, very beginning. But yeah, an interesting start. Some characters that I'm kind of interested in. But that's going to be it for now. You can check this game out via the link in the description, or check out my many other furry visual novel Let's Tries via the playlist in the description. And that's going to be it for everyone. That's going to be it for this one today, everyone. I'll see you next time.